One rainy day, while their moms decided to go out, Malik and Aaliyah decided to imitate the videos they had been watching. They went into the rooms and closed the doors thinking no one could catch them, but immediately Aaliyah started saying, "Stop Malik, it's hurting me." Malik replied, "But this is how it is in the video we watched." Before they knew it, they heard a loud door slammed and immediately knew it was big trouble for them. This is a big lesson for parents to be careful with kids. Here's how it starts. In a small neighborhood in the heart of Atlanta, two children, Malik and Aaliyah, were inseparable. Malik, a curious and energetic 9-year-old boy, and Aaliyah, a bright and imaginative 7-year-old girl, had been friends since they were toddlers. Their mothers, Tasha and Keisha, had been best friends since high school, and their bond had naturally extended to their children. The two families lived just a few houses apart, and Malik and Aaliyah spent most of their afternoons together, playing, exploring, and dreaming up adventures. One sunny afternoon, after school, Malik and Aaliyah sat on the porch of Malik's house, sipping on lemonade and sharing a bag of chips. The air was warm, and the sound of birds chirping filled the neighborhood. Malik's mother, Tasha, was inside, preparing dinner, while Aaliyah's mother, Keisha, was at work. "Malik, what do you wanna do today?" Aaliyah asked, swinging her legs back and forth on the porch swing. Malik shrugged, his eyes scanning the yard for inspiration. "I dunno, we could play hide and seek again, but we've done that like a million times." Aaliyah giggled. "Yeah, and you always hide in the same spot behind the big tree. I find you every time." Malik rolled his eyes playfully. "Okay, smarty pants, where do you hide, huh?" "Under the porch, that's so obvious." Aaliyah stuck her tongue out at him. "At least I don't get scared when a squirrel runs by." The two burst into laughter, their voices echoing through the quiet street. But as their laughter died down, Malik's eyes lit up with an idea. "Hey, you know what we haven't done in a while?" Malik asked, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "What?" Aaliyah asked, leaning forward with curiosity. "Watch videos on my mom's phone," Malik said, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "She lets me use it sometimes when she's busy. We can watch funny videos or something." Aaliyah's eyes widened with excitement. "Yeah, let's do it, but what if she catches us?" Malik waved his hand dismissively. "She won't, she's busy cooking, and she never checks her phone when she's in the kitchen. Come on, let's go inside." The two children slipped off the porch and tiptoed into the house, careful not to make too much noise. Tasha was in the kitchen, humming along to the radio as she stirred a pot on the stove. Malik grabbed his mother's phone from the living room table and motioned for Aaliyah to follow him upstairs to his room. Once inside, Malik closed the door quietly and sat on the edge of his bed, unlocking the phone. Aaliyah plopped down beside him, her eyes glued to the screen. "What should we watch?" Malik asked, scrolling through the video app. "Something funny," Aaliyah said, clapping her hands. "Like those videos of people falling down. Those are hilarious." Malik chuckled and typed in a search. The two watched a few clips of people slipping on ice and tripping over obstacles, laughing until their sides hurt. But as they continued scrolling, they stumbled upon a video that caught their attention. It was a music video, filled with bright lights, flashy cars, and adults dancing provocatively. Malik and Aaliyah stared at the screen, their laughter fading as they watched the adults move in ways they had never seen before. "Whoa," Malik whispered, his eyes wide. "What are they doing?" "I don't know," Aaliyah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it looks weird." The video continued, showing more scenes of adults interacting in ways that Malik and Aaliyah didn't fully understand. But despite their confusion, they couldn't look away. There was something intriguing about the way the adults moved and behaved, something that made them want to see more. When the video ended, Malik and Aaliyah sat in silence for a moment, processing what they had just seen. "That was different," Malik finally said, breaking the silence. "Yeah," Aaliyah agreed, "but it was kind of cool, too. Do you think we could do that?" Malik raised an eyebrow. "Do what? Dance like that?" Aaliyah nodded. "Yeah, it looked fun. We could pretend we're in a music video, just like them." Malik hesitated, unsure if it was a good idea. But the more he thought about it, the more he liked the idea. After all, it was just pretend, right? "Okay," Malik said, a grin spreading across his face. "Let's do it, but we have to be careful. If my mom catches us, we're dead." Aaliyah giggled. "Don't worry, we'll be super sneaky." The two children spent the rest of the afternoon imitating the adults in the video, laughing and giggling as they tried to mimic the dance moves and poses. They didn't fully understand what they were doing, but to them, it was just a fun game. Little did they know, their innocent imitation would soon lead to a discovery that would change everything. Over the next few weeks, Malik and Aaliyah's game became a regular part of their afternoons together. Whenever their parents weren't home, they would sneak onto Tasha's phone and watch more videos, each one more provocative than the last. They didn't understand the context of what they were seeing, but they were fascinated by the way the adults interacted and moved. One day, as they sat in Malik's room, watching yet another video, Aaliyah turned to Malik with a serious expression. "Malik, do you think we're doing something wrong?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Malik frowned, considering her question. "I don't know. It's just a game, right? We're not hurting anyone." Aaliyah nodded slowly, but the doubt lingered in her eyes. "I guess. But what if someone finds out? What if our moms catch us?" Malik shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "They won't. We're careful. Besides, it's not like we're doing anything bad. We're just having fun." Aaliyah seemed to accept his answer, and the two continued their game, pushing their doubts to the back of their minds. But as the days went on, their imitation became more elaborate, and they began to experiment with different scenarios they had seen in the videos. One afternoon, as they played in Aaliyah's room, they decided to recreate a scene they had seen in a movie. They used blankets and pillows to create a makeshift bed, and pretended to be the characters they had seen on screen. "Okay, you be the girl, and I'll be the boy," Malik said, positioning himself on the bed. Aaliyah nodded, climbing onto the bed beside him. "What do we do now?" Malik thought for a moment, trying to remember the scene. "I think we're supposed to hug or something." Aaliyah giggled, wrapping her arms around Malik. "Like this?" Malik nodded, feeling a little awkward but not wanting to admit it. "Yeah, like that, and then I don't know, say something romantic." Aaliyah laughed, trying to stifle her giggles. "Okay, I love you, Malik." Malik's cheeks turned red, but he played along. "I love you too, Aaliyah." The two burst into laughter, rolling off the bed and onto the floor. But as they lay there, catching their breath, they heard a noise. "Downstairs." "Shush," Malik whispered, his eyes wide with panic. "Did you hear that?" Aaliyah nodded, her heart racing. "I think someone's home." The two children scrambled to their feet, quickly dismantling their makeshift bed and trying to act natural. But before they could finish, the door to Aaliyah's room creaked open, and Keisha stood in the doorway, her arms crossed and a stern expression on her face. "What are you two doing?" Keisha asked, her voice calm but firm. Malik and Aaliyah froze, their eyes wide with fear. They exchanged a quick glance, silently debating what to say. Nothing," Malik stammered, his voice trembling. "We were just playing." Keisha raised an eyebrow, clearly not convinced. "Playing what, exactly?" Aaliyah looked down at her feet, unable to meet her mother's gaze. "Just a game. We were pretending to be characters from a movie." Keisha's expression softened slightly, but she still looked concerned. "What kind of movie?" Malik and Aaliyah exchanged another glance, unsure of how to answer. They knew they couldn't tell the truth, but they also didn't want to lie. "Just a movie," Malik said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It was nothing bad, I promise." Keisha sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Listen, you two, I don't know what you've been up to, but I want you to be careful. There are a lot of things out there that aren't appropriate for kids your age. Do you understand?" Malik and Aaliyah nodded, their hearts pounding in their chests. "Good," Keisha said, her tone softening. "Now, why don't you two go outside and play? It's a beautiful day, and you shouldn't be cooped up in here." The two children nodded again, quickly grabbing their shoes and heading for the door. As they stepped outside, they both let out a sigh of relief, grateful that Keisha hadn't pressed them further. But as they sat on the porch, swinging their legs and watching the clouds drift by, they couldn't shake the feeling that their secret game had taken a dangerous turn. A few days later, the weather took a turn for the worse. Dark clouds rolled in, and the sky opened up, pouring rain onto the neighborhood. Malik and Aaliyah were stuck inside, bored and restless. I hate rainy days," Malik groaned, staring out the window at the downpour. "There's nothing to do." Aaliyah nodded in agreement, flipping through a coloring book without much enthusiasm. "Yeah, it's so boring." The two sat in silence for a while, the sound of the rain tapping against the windows filling the room. But then, Malik's eyes lit up with an idea. "Hey, you know what we could do?" he asked, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. What? Aaliyah asked, looking up from her coloring book. We could play our game, Malik said, lowering his voice. You know, the one we've been playing. Aaliyah's eyes widened, and she shook her head. No way, what if our moms catch us again? We almost got in trouble last time. Malik shrugged. They won't catch us. My mom's in the kitchen, and your mom's at work. We'll be super careful. Aaliyah hesitated, torn between her desire to play and her fear of getting caught. But the boredom was too much to bear, and she finally nodded. Okay, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But we have to be really careful. Malik grinned, grabbing his mother's phone from the table. Don't worry, we will. The two children tiptoed upstairs to Malik's room, closing the door quietly behind them. They sat on the bed, huddled together as Malik unlocked the phone and pulled up the video app. Okay, let's see what we can find, Malik said, scrolling through the videos. They watched a few clips, laughing and giggling as they tried to mimic the dance moves and poses. But as they continued scrolling, they stumbled upon a video that made them both freeze. It was a video of two adults, kissing and touching in ways that Malik and Aaliyah had never seen before. They stared at the screen, their eyes wide with shock and confusion. Whoa, Malik whispered, his voice trembling. What are they doing? Aaliyah shook her head, her heart racing. I don't know, but it looks wrong. The two children sat in silence, unable to look away from the screen. They didn't understand what they were seeing, but they knew it was something they shouldn't be watching. But before they could turn off the video, the door to Malik's room burst open, and Tasha stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock and anger. Malik, Aaliyah, what are you doing? Tasha shouted, her voice trembling with fury. Malik and Aaliyah froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. They knew they were in trouble, but they didn't know how to explain themselves. Mom, we. Malik stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Tasha stormed into the room, snatching the phone from Malik's hands. She glanced at the screen, her face turning pale as she realized what they had been watching. Oh my God, Tasha whispered, her voice filled with horror. What have you two been doing? Aaliyah burst into tears, clutching Malik's arm for comfort. We're sorry, Ms. Tasha, we didn't mean to. We were just playing. Tasha's expression softened slightly, but she still looked furious. Playing. This is not a game, Aaliyah. Do you understand how serious this is? Malik and Aaliyah nodded, their tears streaming down their faces. They knew they had made a terrible mistake, but they didn't know how to fix it. Tasha took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down. Listen, you two, what you've been doing is not okay. It's not appropriate for kids your age, and it's not something you should be watching or imitating. Do you understand? Malik and Aaliyah nodded again, their voices trembling as they apologized. We're sorry, Mom, Malik said, his voice barely above a whisper. We didn't mean to. Tasha sighed, running a hand through her hair. I know you didn't, Malik. But this is serious. I need to talk to Keisha about this, and we need to figure out how to handle it. Malik and Aaliyah exchanged a glance, their hearts sinking. They knew they were in big trouble, and they didn't know what was going to happen next. As Tasha left the room to call Keisha, Malik and Aaliyah sat in silence, their minds racing with fear and regret. They knew they had crossed a line, and they didn't know how to make things right. But as they sat there, listening to the sound of the rain tapping against the windows, they realized that their innocent game had turned into something much more serious. And they knew that their lives were about to change forever. Tasha's voice was low but firm as she spoke on the phone with Keisha. Malik and Aaliyah sat on the edge of his bed, their feet dangling, heads hung low. The rain outside had slowed to a drizzle, but the heavy feeling in the room hadn't lifted. Aaliyah sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Malik, are we in big trouble? Malik swallowed hard. He wanted to be brave, to tell her everything would be fine, but the way his mom had looked at them, like she didn't even recognize them, scared him more than any punishment. I don't know, he admitted. The bedroom door creaked open again, and both kids flinched. But it wasn't Tasha, it was Keisha, her usually warm brown eyes now sharp with worry. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Aaliyah Marie Johnson, she said softly, but the sternness in her tone made Aaliyah's lip quiver. Stand up. Aaliyah slid off the bed, her whole body trembling. Keisha knelt in front of her, gripping her shoulders gently but firmly. Baby, what were y'all thinking? Aaliyah burst into tears again. We didn't mean to do anything bad, Mama. We were just playing, like the people in the videos. Keisha's jaw tightened. What videos? Malik, still sitting on the bed, spoke up in a small voice. The ones on Mom's phone, the dancing ones. And the other ones. Keisha closed her eyes for a second, like she was praying for patience. When she opened them, she looked at Malik. Malik, where did y'all even see those? He shrugged helplessly. We just found them. We didn't know it was wrong. We thought it was just pretend. Keisha exhaled slowly, then pulled Aaliyah into a tight hug. Oh, baby. Tasha re-entered the room, her arms crossed. She looked at Malik, her expression unreadable. Malik, go downstairs. I need to talk to Ms. Keisha alone. Malik hesitated, glancing at Aaliyah, who was still clinging to her mother. But now, Tasha said, her voice leaving no room for argument. Malik slid off the bed and trudged out of the room, his stomach twisting. He sat at the bottom of the stairs, straining to hear the muffled voices above. Upstairs, Keisha and Tasha stood in tense silence for a moment before Keisha spoke. We gotta do better, Tasha. This ain't just some little kid messing around, they were mimicking grown folks. Tasha rubbed her temples. I know. But how were we supposed to know they'd find stuff like that? I don't even watch those kinds of videos. Keisha sighed. It don't matter what we watch. They got access to everything now. We gotta monitor them better. Tasha nodded, guilt gnawing at her. You're right, but how do we even explain this to them? They don't even understand what they were doing. Keisha bit her lip. We gotta talk to them. For real. No sugarcoating. Tasha agreed, and they called Malik back upstairs. When Malik entered, his mom sat him down next to Aaliyah on the bed. Both kids looked terrified. Tasha took a deep breath. Listen, y'all, what you were doing, it wasn't just playing. It was something grown-ups do, and it's not for kids. Malik frowned. But why? We were just copying what we saw. Keisha shook her head. Baby, some things are private. Your bodies are special, and nobody, not even each other, should be touching or pretending like that. Do y'all understand? Aaliyah's face scrunched in confusion. But we weren't really doing it. We were just playing. Tasha softened her tone. I know, sweetie, but even pretending can lead to things you're not ready for. And watching those videos, that's not okay. Those are for adults, not kids. Malik's shoulders slumped. Are we in trouble? Keisha and Tasha exchanged a glance. Yes, Keisha said firmly. But more than that, we need y'all to understand why this is serious. Tasha nodded. No more sneaking phones. No more watching things you know you shouldn't. And no more playing like that. Ever. Understood? Both kids nodded quickly. And, Keisha added, y'all are gonna be supervised all the time now. No more playing alone in rooms with the door closed. Aaliyah's eyes widened. For how long? Keisha raised an eyebrow. Until we say so. Malik groaned inwardly. This was worse than being grounded. The next few weeks were awkward. Malik and Aaliyah weren't allowed to play alone anymore. Either Tasha or Keisha was always nearby. The carefree afternoons of hide-and-seek and make-believe were replaced with board games in the living room or coloring at the kitchen table. At first, the kids were resentful. But as time passed, they fell back into their old rhythms, just without the secrecy. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch drawing with chalk, Aaliyah glanced at Malik. Do you think we'll ever be able to play like before? Malik shrugged. I dunno. But I don't wanna do that stuff again anyway. It felt weird after a while. Aaliyah nodded. Yeah, it wasn't even fun. Malik smirked. Besides, you're a terrible actor. You kept laughing when you were supposed to be serious. Aaliyah giggled, shoving him. You were worse. You looked like you had to sneeze the whole time. They both burst into laughter, the tension finally breaking. Inside, Tasha and Keisha watched through the window, relief washing over them. Keisha smiled. They'll be alright. Tasha nodded. Yeah, but we're definitely putting parental controls on our phones. Keisha laughed. Oh, absolutely. Outside, the sun shone brightly, and for the first time in weeks, everything felt normal again.